Alrighty, looks like we should be live. Let's get this chat screen bumped up as usual. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live stream version of the graph paper method. And streaming live today, we have a discussion for you, as long as it takes here. As the title suggests, we're going to dive deep with the first solo in the song Pavilion from Eric Johnson and discuss its phrasing, and as you can see on the sheet here, use of intervals over the chords. So let's get right to it, shall we? Here's the story of a messed up channel that was trying to make it so people could play guitar. Okay, so let's get familiar with the solo first. Now, I'm just going to play it on my guitar, and hopefully that alone won't get flagged in it. It just might. And we can't play, obviously, the real tune because it could get flagged and my channel won't qualify for monetization, marked off, whatever the deal is. Apparently you don't want to be putting copyrighted material in your live channel videos. Anyways, or in any of your videos. So I don't think I meant to play the whole solo because I just kind of ruined it at the end there. Anyways, but here's an example of what we're dealing with here today. And so what I did was lay out some information here that we could talk about. What we went over on let's recap the last time we went over this solo. We determined that it was basically rolling over two bass notes, which are, or if you consider the full orchestration of the song, two chords, which are C minor and F7, both belonging to a parent scale. Let's take a look. Up here, we'll start, and I'll show you here what I got today. We have this chord here, C minor, and all the intervals based on the C. C is the one here in this diagram, and we're going to know when we play, how do I word this so everybody can understand it? Because it's very simple, but I hate when people say it's very simple, because when it's hard to you, it's hard to you. But your mind is probably making this like more difficult than it is. But anyways, Dorian is the 2 chord of the scale. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Hold the fuck on here. Hold on. See, this is why you make real recorded videos and you invest hours doing this, because then you don't have these, moments where you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. But anyways, I know what I'm talking about. I just can't spit it out. I wanted to roll this up here and show you that we have the other chord here, F7, Mixolydian. We said it was C and F, so we got that mapped out here. We got this one mapped out here, and since it starts on C, we're going to start talking about it right here. And I'm going to erase all this at the top because it's just the same thing I wrote down below. I just had it off screen so it's not confusing anybody. So here we have, oh, let's do it like that. Okay. A fretboard and some information about the song. Where this all comes from is you could say, it's not like, you could probably created this thinking of this, but it's not exactly like how, I'm not telling you like, oh, this is how Eric Johnson actually created it. I'm saying this is some of the things that are revealed when you harmonically analyze what was going on here. Anyways, if you take all the notes in this scale, or that are revealed in the solo, it ends up locking into a scale here, and this parent scale is a B flat major, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, starting from B flat, C, D, E, F, G, A. So we'll play that really quick. Oh, sorry. My playing is pretty sloppy, so. Sorry. I guess I'm in the mood to play and practice and everything, but I just jumped on live here because if I didn't do that now, what would happen is I would fall asleep later. And I know I would, and think that I'd record one in the morning, and I wouldn't do that before work, and I'd be at work again upset that I never went live. So in order so I can focus on my work at work, when I have to work at that working job that I'm not even going to tell you about today, but it's not this. You wanted to hear me talk about this, not anything related to that. So let me even forget what I was saying and just keep moving here. I don't know how the hell I got on all that. Oh my God. Anyways, the parent key is that, so we don't really need to think about that in this. Maybe if we want to reveal some of the way that you might want to create a solo that has as much impact as this one, like, are there any ways to like know exactly how the heck to do that? And here are some ways that are going to be revealed here. This is also not saying that Eric Johnson thought of all this as he was playing. I'm pretty sure he's got a good idea of all this because of the way he can name out all the intervals of the chords that he's playing and his chords that he knows that he can just fly, and name off quicker than I can. That knowledge shows a knowledge of what's going on here today. However, this isn't to say that that solo couldn't have been him recording himself and then placing it over that track, and maybe he tried 3 different solos and that was the one that sounded the best, and it just so happened to fall into all these music theory ideas we're going to see today. But I mean, that could have happened too. You just never know. I've clearly heard of songs being made like that, but so I'm not trying to say like, oh, this is exactly how this is the the secret and what Eric Johnson thought and everything like that. So that's not the scope of this video. It's just kind of revealing what actually happened and what if you like that, how you can think about doing this in your solos. Okay, so and like for me, like for example, I still find it incredibly difficult to have this stuff in my mind as I create a solo. I just go by ear and what I like, but as I study this stuff, it tends to start showing up in my playing without me having to consciously think, okay, here comes the chord change. Let me make sure I'm on the 5. Okay. So that being said, let's focus today. I'm probably going to take you through every note of the solo and give you my thoughts on each and every interval, just to make the video long as fuck, right? But our concentration will be at the moments that the C goes to the F, where the change happens, and how does he play through the change. Now, in this instance, because this chord and its other chord, the F7, are completely part of the parent key, there really doesn't have to be any thought with playing over the changes like there would be if these 2 chords did not come from the same parent key. If they were basically modulating, jumping different keys, or whatever you want to call it, that would require definite thought about each and every change. There's a way to handle all that has some tricks to it and stuff like that. But you don't have to think about that for this video because both of these chords come from the same parent key. So even if you're kind of like noodling and, you know, not making the same phrasing sense here that Eric Johnson is, but you got an interesting, you know, bunch of noodling happening. Perhaps it's interesting, right? And you can just let these chords kind of go over each other, and they'll, you know, have that effect over your lines. And no matter what you're doing, even if you play, you know, right across the change, or you change direction when the chords change, as long as you're hitting these parent scale notes, you're going to be fine. It doesn't really matter that you were on the 4 and it turned into a 5 and whatever happened, right? But if you do give it some thought, you can make these solos pop a bit, and that's what Eric Johnson is doing here. So just to make that shorter, we're really focusing on where the chords change. Let's talk about it. Let's get right into it. Last thing on this chart up here, we went over the parent scale, and then we have the actual intervals for the chords. As you can see there, like for example, C starts on the 2, and we all know 1 Dorian. I'm sorry, let's start again. 1 Ionian, 2 Dorian, C, right? That's where we got that from. The 3 Phrygian, D. 4 Lydian, E. 5 Mixolydian, F. 6 Aeolian, G. And 7 Locrian, A. So, and it's Phrygian for all the people that always correct me on my mispronunciation of that word I hate. So what we have here for the F is we start up there on the 5, the Mixolydian, and that becomes our 1. I mean, now I say Mixolydian, I'm just using that as a reference. Is it actually playing in Mixolydian just because the chord is there for 16 beats? You give it that explanation if you want. I'm just saying there's some relation there. But, you know, for 16 beats, it's got a Mixolydian sound to the to all the notes, and then there'll be more of a sadder Dorian sound during the C. To a degree. Is it actually playing in Dorian? Did it change modes? You know, doesn't really matter to even put any emphasis on whether it did or didn't. So let's move on with that. C. Senior. We start on the 1, 2, flat 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and back to the 1. So C, of course, being minor, you can see how the pattern works out there. The note in the scale is a flat 3rd, a minor note. The 3rds are the character notes that define major and minor for you new guys, new girls. So flat 3rd, minor. Minor chord, Dorian, minor, 2 minor. Make sense? Hopefully it's all clicking for you. And drop my new pick here. Sorry about all that. Here's my new pick. See this thing? I think it's kind of cool. I don't totally like. I'll tell you what I've been jamming with lately that I really like. I started with those smaller jazz 3s that Eric Johnson likes, and I ended up with these. And also, yeah, is this a Jim Dunlop pickup? Yeah, hats off to the Dunlop family who lost Jim Dunlop Sr. Who, yeah, so Jim Dunlop right there. Engineered some fine picks and a copycat right here. And it's an older one. You can see it's rounded off a bit. But what these are, they're thick. But they're really rounded. And they're not very flexible, but I like the way when you roll over the strings, they really... You can really get in between the strings. All right, so sorry for the interlude there. Back in business here. So we're not going to, speaking of interludes, that's what this whole thing starts with, that the build-up, we'll call it the build-up, so you can hear this just up, 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 up in tension. And that whole part is not really within the parent scale here, so just consider that, just a piece of the puzzle. But how it works, how does it go right into that part seamlessly without sounding like it changed keys or whatever it did? So the reason is this: as you build tension here, that note right there, this is the reason I put on it. What sounds apparent to me is that note is like a leading tone to the C note, a C. That's exactly where that bass line is going to start. Our groove is going to start right there. C minor Dorian, F7 Mixolydian. It's going to be clear to the listener. It's just a clear vibe. And you would definitely want to, accentuate that and be right in the pocket. And so it's great that the tension leads right up to what I'm calling the leading note. The leading note is the half step before the note that you want. Kind of like when you play the major scale. That last note that leads into the back to the first note. Anyways, I'm sure you get that. Sorry about stretching these points out too far. So we got to that leading note, and he graces a lower C before getting into the little riff area and getting into his statement. Now, at that moment, we get the rhythm and the bass line locked into the groove. Has been happening, the dun da dun da dun da dun with the bass line, something like that. And so you'll notice, like, at that moment, he doubles up the C to land right in the pocket, and so you're sure, it's a great note to start on. It's the root note of the chord. I mean, could have started on a fifth, could have been jazzy and tried to start on the third or whatever, but I think the intention here is to start off what I'm going to say really in the pocket. Now, in the pocket normally refers to being, with the beat, which is where he is as well. He graces that, and he's here right on the start of the. So, yeah, he's in the pocket rhythmically, but that's really in the pocket sonically too. So that everything else will have everything else's flavor will really stand out, because we started right here on solid ground. He's in the right place at the right time. So we run down 5, 4, 3, 1, and then it changes direction. So notice he goes right back down to that 1, and then it goes. So right here, 1, 1, 1, 1, 5, 1. I said an extra 1 where there was a 5, but anyways, 5. As you can see, we're angled toward the camera more here, and here is where we are. So pretty cool. Then it changes direction again and runs down here. Graces through that 1. We're hitting a lot of 4s on the way, and then right after a little box of notes from the 4 to the 4, I position shift really quick with a little slide to get right into the 4-3-1, 4-3-1. That doubles up. And let's listen to this real quick. I got something else I want to tell you about this. I'll probably right from the beginning. Here's the root note. Well, actually, here's the lead in. Root note. that whole lick right there, it changes direction. It's a nice open lick. It's stepwise. Kind of runs back and forth a little bit, gives you some time on those notes. Then it kind of doubles up on itself, and you go back up to the 4 and go down really quick, only one time, and then you slide down really quick and you play this little triplet piece here, do 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 do, twice on the same exact little set of notes. So in other words, you spent a little nice little wandering time back and forth in the first group, a kind of quick run down, step by step, not wasting any time, jumping right out of that second group, and then a really small group here doubled up twice. So there's a light activity, medium activity, heavy activity. It's kind of like the music went, to me, it seemed like it was in a wide arc, and it just spiraled in on itself. So when it does that, he's once again doing a little root dance. So he went root, root, and started just spiraling down the scale until he was bang, bang, bang right on the root again, right in the pocket. So by that time, the next note is coming up. That F7 is going to be about to be what's the word I'm looking for? Because the bass is just playing an F, but the insinuation is an F7. It's the fifth note in the pattern of notes that we've been drawing from, at least for our C chord. So definitely as we hear the F, your ear is going to expect that all these, the actual solo to actually stay in the same parent scale, so it can accentuate that F as an F7 chord. So right after that little 1, 2, 3 on the root, back to C, back to C, you slide right up to the 4. However, that's right on the pocket of the F note. So a 4 here, you can see, becomes a 1. The F, the 1 of F. So we're on the root. So we went to the root. Sorry to be so loud. I'm trying to talk over my loud guitar here, which is probably too loud for the video. To the root, new roots, F. Then we're on the 5. Just gracing it really fast. 1, 5, which is really cool because that accentuates the chord you were on. The 1 and the 5 are just the most in the pocket notes of that chord. To be on the 3rd is going to have probably would be more of like a jazzy choice to get into your F statement on the 3rd, and might not sound as Eric Johnson-y as just getting in right on the 1 in the pocket. But we quickly jump out of there. We climb up from the bend up a 6 into a 7, which is a sweet sound. We're on the oh, and actually, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong chart here. So let's go back to the point where he got in on the 1. Got a little ahead of myself here. So that's at the point where we went to the root for C, and then F, the 1. Now we're on the bass is banging the F. And you can find this out for yourself. You can just take your well, what I do is I got a setting for the bass. I'll set my guitar up as a bass, and I'll just ring out 16 C's in this rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So this is right where the F starts galloping, right? And so we got 1, 5 really quick. We're the 3 to the 4, pretty tasty bend up there. We went 4, 5, and set up on the 1. Our phrase is done at that moment on the 1. And then we're, let's see, I drew that on. Go, give me a second here. Oh, I need a 2. The next little bit is 2, 5, a 2, 5 to a flat 7, which slides right up to. Now we slide up. However, that is the in the pocket note for the next note in our scale. So that would be here, the 5, and as you can see, the 2 becomes the G note, becomes a 5 once the F becomes the C. So we, in essence, I think it counts more to the to a listener's ear, not the note that you were leaving, but the note that that fret just became. So in other words, we went 2, 5, 7, slide up to 2, but it was 2, 5, 7, slide up to the 5 of C, which is a rock, like I said, a rock solid. You're either going to get in on a 5 or a 1, and at this point in the solo, where you're kind of mid solo, so you might not necessarily want to just keep on getting in from the 1. Getting in from the 5 is a little bit more, not as abrupt, and so a little more kosher. So. So we went 5, 7, 4. Now this is where I said earlier. Oops, sorry. I gotta get better at looking at my screen here. So there was the 5 that we slid up to. When we slid up to the 2, it became that 5, and then it goes 5, flat 7, 4. Now check out all these 4s that happen right now. It's kind of like he just it's just basically I think we get 4 notes, 4 beats gone, just basically on 4s and 7s. It's so, I think at that moment that really sounds cool to people, because that is a series of repeating. It's a pretty slick way to write across the fretboard, but there's like a pattern no one knows about. Like any non-musician doesn't know all that he just went basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, played 5 notes out of only 2 notes, which sounds great because it's a pattern, but also delays the other intervals, which then sound great. He only has 3 beats left before before that phrase ends, but then the chord isn't going to change for us, still another bar or 2. But he's coming up to the end of that phrase, and he's still kind of making a phrase right now. This was kind of like, that's where everything changed. So now and it's kind of like, here's the phrase in my ears. It's kind of like 2 voices, like guitar said that, and then it answered. And then it said this. And then it answered back. Kind of like a call and response bit there. All on, no need to suddenly fly and burn down a scale and show your chops when you can really pick out your intervals. That's why everything sounds so tasty. Like, wow, how is this playing sound so great? And he's not burning down the scales like a Malmsteen and all the other guys. And not to say that they're not all doing this too, to their own degree. Some more than others. Anyways, sorry, I mean, never mind. So 4, 7, 4, 4, and then 2, 7 again, great choice, and then back to the root, the 1 to end that. That gives that finality, that final answer, and it's. Well, what do you know? That's also, we went what? We went 7, 4, 7, 4, 4, and now we're 1, 4, 1, 4. Got all them fours again. Just great note to buy yourself some time on a cool haunting note, because the fours always got that kind of spacey sound with the 1, right? It's that suspended note. That. So we got the 1, 4, 1, 4, and then here's an interesting thing. We start bending that 6 into the 7, or we slide it into the 7. Right as it slides into the 7, that is the change. I believe that the best I could hear is that the note is hitting as soon as he's on that flat 7th. Great note to leave the C minor on. What does that bring us into the F7 on the 4th? And that's an interesting choice for getting in on the on the 5 chord here. And so, what's my take on that? I think it's a good note to get in on in the middle of the solo, because for one, the phrase is not done. So I think if it was a 1 or a 5, it would kind of be signaling like, not only are we changing chords here, but and probably changing directions, but we're changing. It's it's a whole new little idea where this is still in the middle of talking. So we went. You can hear how those both lead to the same note. The 4, again, it was just part of a statement. So then the answer comes. So it's kind of like a stall. So it was a great note to be on, to get into the 5 with. And at the same time, then we do intervals were that we did a flat 7th, the 4. It's like a 7-4 move again. 7-4. There's that 2 again. To the 4. You always see he's throwing that 2 in there. Probably likes to think of that as a 9th. All the time, but only after there's been like a little lull. You get that 2 in there. That's just a great little choice to hop away from. It's just, and he doesn't sit there and milk it or anything like that. He's just using it like, I'm old and I just remembered the name of this old coffee brand, Taster's Choice, and that's what I thought like for that. So if you're an old ass like me, you'll be like, oh yeah, that old commercial, you're burnt. And if you're not old, you'll just be like, what the hell is this guy even talking about? So anyways. Oh, no, we're not even anywhere there. Okay, so we went to that 2-7 or 2-4, sorry. And then we got the maybe so my hammer on will ring out. We ended on the 7, 6, 5. We ended up on that 5. So we're still banging on the F on the bass, and we've just got a little bit more to go. But that's the end of our phrase. He ended up on a 5. Decent place to end. And there was something else I was going to say. It was like back here that we had changed to... Okay, it's never mind. Sorry to even have done that. That was meaningless. I'm fumbling. Calm down here. Having a good time. So, where were we? We still got the F kicking, and we've got a little bit more to go. So, we start a new statement, and we go... Interesting little lick there, kind of... cool to hear that, you know, he gives you a taste like, hey, look, I'm relying on that same old pentatonic blues, and that's all you're getting because he ain't staying there like a burnout would. So he goes, he gives a really healthy Eric Johnson-esque bend, Gilmore-ish kind of bend, nailing that note a whole step ahead. And at that moment of that bend, he bends right into the change. What do you know? That's a cool way to meet up with a change, is to bend into it. So he's going back to the C chord here. So what we get is he went 5, basically 1, 2, 5. Great way to start the new phrase on the 1 note, right? 1 to the 2, nice stepwise motion. Jump to the 5. And then bending up that flat 7th, but that to the 1 again, okay, of the F. Sounds great at that moment, but as it changes, it's the 4 of C. So now we're coming in on the 4 again. In the middle of the solo, we're coming into our new chords on the 4. There's something about that, perhaps, right? So, kind of a neat idea there. What else can we think here? Well, let's continue on with our solo. Something mostly along those lines. I know this is right. So that's all of these notes. From there, we're going down 3, 2, 1. Oh, sorry. Something, I don't know what the fuck I did. It just rolled down basically in a pentatonic way. All these notes here, the 3, the 4, the 1, ended up on the 4 of C, but that was the in the pocket note for the F note. So let's see where we are. Hey, what do you know? We're back on the 1. So we go. It's one of these notes. I'm pretty sure it's 4, 7, 1, 4. So we got that 4, the 7, the 1, the 4. Kind of like whenever we're just stalling in between or kind of in the middle of one of our phrases, we're jamming 7s and 4s. And then we're at the beginning or the end of our phrases, we're going for root notes, if that is ringing any bells. So what do we have? So we're 4, 7, 1. So the 7, flat 7th, right? Ended that phrase where? On the root of C. So let's just hear it again. And once again, it's like 2 different phrases, like call and response. There was this voice. It kind of, it's got more to say, and it's up, it's rising up. But the final voice is a little sad. Kind of like asking a question, but then having someone say, I'm afraid not, you know, in my mind's eye. Which is that kind of linguistic use of these lines, or suggested linguistic movement of these lines is what gives this stuff its depth and personality in my book, but it could be just me. Okay, so at this moment, we're still in the thumping out that F, and we rip into this wicked cool, the last little piece there is this just wicked awesome arpeggio way up the fretboard from low to high. And so we start off still on the F, and I believe he's in the pocket there on the C note. So we start 2, 4, we get a 2 and 4, but then it starts the C note here. I just took you right through the end there. What we got there is, like I said, the 2, the 4, and then I wrote here that the 5 becomes a 1. So we left off on the 5, but we were in the pocket to make that a 1. And then we're up to the 2, the 4, the 5, the 1, and some people play it down there, there. I go up here to the flat third, the 4, the 5, the 7, the 1. And does it come down any? Okay, so 1, 5, 4, then flat third 1, 7, flat 7 actually, then a 4, 1, flat 7, 5, slid down to a 4, flat third 1, and then 4, flat third 1. So it's like a little repeating thing, an octave lower really fast. And at that moment it switches, so the phrase ends, well, the phrase actually ends on that low note, but as you leave right there is where the chord changes, so check it out once again. He goes 4, 3, 1, 4, 4, 3, 1. Basically, there's a jumble of notes in here, but towards the end of the phrase, it's land on the root, land on the root. But the phrase is still going, so he's instantly on this note, and check out what that note is. It's the root of the F that starts the last 16 beats of F that happen right there. And so we have 4, we go up here to the 4, 5, the 1. I think the lick goes like this. Which I think is really cool, as I said in the last video. 1, 4, 5 gives it that nice suspended feel, and then he goes back to the root, so he really accentuates the root at that moment in that phrase, and then that 4 again. So it's 1, 4, then a 5, which is kind of like an accessory to the 1. Back to the 1, another 1, and a 4 again. So it's just like really it's all this statement, and it's like, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's playing 5 notes, 6 notes there, and on a 3 notes. So it's a ton of mileage on just a couple of tones there, milking it. And at the end there, he jumps up to the 2, and here's a little out of scale note, but it works for a few reasons. It's the end of the scale, and when you march up like that, it's kind of like a signify to the listener that we are leaving the area and ready to be home and eating dinner. No, just kidding. But it's kind of like you'll hear Pink Floyd songs are always walking up, and a lot of things walk up, like a walking bass line. However, another reason that works is it's the 7th chord, and that's kind of like Mixolydian is funny like that. When you're jamming in Mixolydian, one of the bluesy tricks is to substitute the flat third for the third. So that's why that totally works right there as a walking passing note. And what do you know? Now that was just a bunch of noodling based on the melody that exists in the song, which is not played that way, but those are the notes. He was using Anyways, that's all in relative to the key of C. It appears to me like that's a minor chord sound. And that's the Aeolian. All those notes fall within that pattern, so it's quite clearly harmonically shifted to C, and I think that's where that note walks up, help us get back into the C, or actually would be the natural minor to the key of C if it's based on the A minor chord, right? So an Aeolian. So I say C because that's the easy way for me to think about it, but we're talking A minor, and that might be a good way to walk up to A minor. So anyways, which by the way, you walk up to when you're walking up to an A note from G. So that is my dive in deep today with Eric Johnson's Pavilion solo. And so what did we really discover? That when we're in a solo and we're starting, we're changing directions, and we don't want to sound like we're just randomly changing directions. We want to make emphasis on the statement. We're just getting in on starting a statement, starting a new chord. Maybe that's the 1. Perhaps it's the 5. Maybe it's the 1 and the 5. In the middle of a solo, in the middle of a phrase that's crossing over the bar line, you may want to get into that leave your last no, or leave your last chord on a here's what I started looking at, like, because it started occurring to me, like, hey, if you leave on this, is it always leaving the same note will lead to the same note? Like if I leave on the 1 of or the 7 of C, does it always become the 1 of F? But it does not. If I left on the 7 of C, it becomes the 4. But if I leave on the 7 of F, it becomes the flat 7. It becomes the flat 3rd. So it doesn't always hold true like that. But if I want to, end up on the 1 of F, I'm going to have to leave on the 4 of C. But if I want to get in on the 4 of F, I'm going to have to leave on the 7 of C. But if you were racing around, if I was to get around fast on the fretboard, it probably wouldn't be necessarily, I would just be targeting notes of the new, intervals of the new chord. I wouldn't be thinking about, well, okay, I'm leaving here, starting here. I would just be like, okay, this is done. Where am I headed? Okay, I'm going to be on the 4. And then as I'm leaving F, I'd start thinking C, and I would know, okay, here's my 1, and I would know to go there. I would probably also know that, if I'm on my 5, becomes a 1. There's a whole bunch of different ways you could go about this. Especially if you had time to sit and compose a solo. So there's a lot of people think, also as well, that some of this, and it could very well have been improvised really fast, and it just worked out great. And that's a lot of times I think what these solos are. Natural, from the heart, and that's why they sound great, is because they locked in with some theory. But this could also have been very composed. You could be sitting around in the studio building this great song, and you've had other songs where you've recorded improvised things, and now you're composing something, and you're really trying to get this solo to pop more, and maybe you felt it was too busy, or you just wanted to really engineer it. You could have mapped out all these changes and said, all right, this is going to be my phrase. Maybe I'll, noodle here until I end up right here so I can be there, kind of deal. Well, I think I've stretched my ideas out as much as I care to ramble about them. I mean, I like to be on live here all the time. I would just be live all the time, especially if I could do this being supported on Patreon. And here's why you might want to consider that. Like, for example, today I can be on here at from 3 to 3:45 because I'm home. But shouldn't I be working? Well, if I want to pay for this internet connection and my apartment and put food on the table, speaking of, let me tell you about food in a second. I should be working, and I couldn't work today. There's a big snowstorm hit. It was kind of better if we went home a little early, but I got 2 hours in, and then I went to the grocery store, and I spent 3 times that. So my day was a total loss here financially, just because, work is so random and so weather dependent, and when I get there, I never know what I'm doing. It's chaotic, and I can't focus on my real passion in life, which is my music and making money teaching now. Is that your fault? No, that's my problem. Is that your problem? No, it's my problem. I'm the one that made this dumb choice to get into this line of work that I did when I should have probably taken a risk and tried teaching locally and getting into gigs and applying myself musically like I think I could if I just got over my fears, like most of us have, of doing this kind of thing, and applied myself. So pretty much my fault for being, the typical, hey, let's not take any risks, let's not get kicked out of our apartment guy, and just kind of staying like this. But there's the pitfall. If I had people that were like, hey, this is worth $1 to me, I'd pay $1 for this. This is like a $30 guitar lesson. This is like what my guitar teacher couldn't even answer for me in my $30 lesson, sent me home with a whole bunch of homework that didn't make any sense to the song. Perhaps, not knocking your guitar teacher, maybe they can, depending on if they know the song or not, and how much passion they have to teach it to you. However, if this felt like a value to you, pony up, man, or just throw me a donation. Send me $1 one time. But do $1 a month, and that could secure me being able to do this every day. Can you imagine me on here for 2 hours every day so you could catch me one day a week and ask a question? All right. I'll leave you with those ideas. Consider me. It's the Patreon link should be in the box below, and if it's not down below, make sure you leave in the comments like, hey dude, what are you talking about, along with all your mistakes you're going to point out here. But I don't think there's any mistakes. I think I got my intervals listed right and everything went right there. So until next time, my friends, diving deep with Eric Johnson, and of course Eric Johnson wasn't really here. Hey Eric, you're taking off? You didn't even all right, yeah. So well, he didn't want to say goodbye because he was never even here. And I will catch you guys on the flip side where we'll talk about maybe some things that you leave for me in the questions or comments down below. Oh, yeah. Speaking of questions or comments, before I go, I never even looked here to see if there was any questions or comments, but there wasn't. No comments. No Red Walrus. We missed you again. But we'll see you again soon. Leave a comment if you saw this video. And thank you all for watching. Have a great day. We'll go live again soon. Leave a comment. Tell me about how fast I should get my ass on here live again, because that helps. Thank you. Bye.